I'm immigration lawyer Mark Northam.
And I'm registered migration agent Monica Gruszka.
And on this week's Coming to Oz, we're going to talk about expanding opportunities in South Australia. Some very special deals for migrants, some deals you may not know about.
So stay tuned.
Welcome to Coming to Australia with Mark Northam and Monica Gruszka, the show for people looking to get a visa and come to Australia. We'll talk about the latest Australian immigration regulations, strategies for getting visas and much more, including your questions. Information discussed on Coming to Australia is not intended as legal advice or immigration assistance and is current as of the date of the show's production. However, as migration law frequently changes, you should always refer to updated information. And now, from Sydney, the hosts of Coming to Australia, immigration lawyer Mark Northam and registered migration agent Monica Gruszka.
And welcome to this week's Coming to Oz. We do this show to help you better understand your options in terms of visas and different ways to come to Australia.
Yes.
Again, I'm Mark Northam. I'm an immigration lawyer, and I'm with Monica Gruszka, registered migration agent.
Yes.
And this week, we're here to talk about a very special batch of opportunities from one of the Australian states. Now, how many states are there in Australia? I forget.
We've got, 6
There's
states
50
and 7.
in America.
Yeah, I know. And I could never get them.
Well, 50 is a lot to remember.
Well, we've got 2 territories and so many states. Is it
2 plus 6? 2 plus 4? I don't know.
Something like that.
Something like that.
We've got territories
There are
and
not very
states.
many of them,
No,
but can we leave
the
it at
Northern
that?
Territory and the Australian Capital Territory. But,
Why isn't there no Southern Territory?
well, that's called South Australia.
Why?
I don't know
What's
whether
the difference between a territory and
You
a
know, I
state?
did study that in high school, but at the moment I can't remember.
That's all right.
It wasn't it wasn't important, especially in migration. It doesn't matter as long as state's a state or a territory
so
is a territory.
So a state and a territory is kind of the same thing.
Well, yes. When it comes to immigration, it's all, it's not going to make a difference whether it's a state or a territory.
All right, fair enough.
However,
But
the interesting news is we're going to be talking about South Australia.
South Australia. Now, that is
Yes.
not an area, it is a state,
It
right?
is a state.
Okay.
It's a, you know what? It's a state of cathedrals. So if you
Cathedrals?
want to,
A lot
it
of
is
churches?
all the churches in South Australia. So
right.
if you want to go and see some incredible architecture, that is where you need to go. But it is a beautiful place.
Well, I've been there a couple of times. It's very quiet.
And it's so clean. It's
wasn't a lot to do
beautiful.
there.
No, it's
But they have the Barossa Valley, right?
They have the Barossa. The what?
The Barossa?
The Barossa. Mr. American over here.
Well,
Got ready? Repeat after me. Barossa.
Barossa.
It's the Barossa Valley. Oh yeah, the
I'm
reds in the
getting
Barossa, unbelievable. No, which is why we're going to start talking about South Australia.
That's
Hopefully,
right.
we are convincing you to take a look and acknowledge the new requirements. There's been a new state-nominated occupation list for South Australia.
Yep.
They're opening up again. Not long ago they closed. There was a big influx of applications to the state of South Australia. However, now they've reopened and they've made some variations.
Great.
I think they're really wanting to attract a lot of skilled migrants to South Australia.
And that's a nice change because so many of the rules and regulations for migrants are designed to make it harder for migrants to come to Australia.
Agreed.
And Monica and I have both noticed this in our individual practices, that there's a great amount of interest in South Australia. One of my recent visa grants for a 489 for South Australia
Congratulations.
was for a pastry chef.
Yes, I remember that was wonderful. Congratulations.
Yep.
Pastry chef.
That's right. He did a great job, and
Yes.
he's so thrilled to be coming to Australia. So
Well done.
if you're looking for a visa for Australia, especially if you are looking for a skilled migration visa, that is the 489,
Yes.
which is a state-sponsored
Yes.
provisional visa, which you can upgrade later to the 887 to get your PR,
Correct.
or a 190, which is a state-sponsored permanent visa.
Yes.
You should be having a look at South Australia. So today's show, we're going to talk about some of the special arrangements and the special deals, if you will,
Yes.
that South Australia is
Agreed.
offering to migration agents.
Yes.
So, tell us more.
I'm going to tell you some more. So, what's hot off the press with South Australia? So, this came out a few days ago. A lot of people are coming to me, and also you, is right. So, I'm studying in Sydney or I'm studying in Melbourne, which are capital cities, and they're not regional. Just remember that. So,
Well, Melbourne
yes.
is regional for the family-sponsored 489.
Oh, very good point.
Just a
Very
little
good point.
technicality. But normally,
Yes.
the regional areas for the for other visas are
Which is
not,
190.
That's right.
That's
are
right.
not considered that. So
That's right. So that's why you need to always refer to current legislation.
that's right.
But however,
It's in the disclaimer. That's all that fine print at the end you're supposed to read.
So what we're going to discuss today is the international graduate occupation and waiver requirements. And the reason I'm doing that is we're getting a lot of students, international students, who are studying currently in Sydney.
Yeah, they normally study mainly in Sydney or
They
Melbourne.
do. Most people want to study in the major cities of Australia.
Yep.
However, with the last couple of years, the 482, the skills occupation list has also gotten shorter. So it looks as if the only place you could potentially gain PR is if you invest in going to regional parts of Australia.
We should cut to the point. And we've talked about this before.
We
but
have.
We need to sort of cut to the chase here and be brutal, because you know what? We're very brutally honest, right?
We have to.
We're not trying to tell you what you want to hear. We're not trying to make things sound better.
Yes.
The bottom line is, over the last year, the Immigration Department has cut off many pathways for students.
Absolutely.
By imposing a 3-year work requirement for a 187 or a 186 employer-sponsored visa.
Correct.
And imposing a 2-year work experience requirement for the 482, which is the new 457.
And it's crazy because if you've come to Australia and invested in a student visa, studying, whatever it might be.
And let's assume it's in demand, and let's assume they completed their studies successfully. Why shouldn't you be able to stay? Hello?
Yeah, exactly.
There is the 485 skilled graduate visa, but it's only either 18 months or 2 years, unless you have an advanced degree. And essentially, you better be, if you want to move on to one of the visas that has a new 2 or 3 year work experience requirement, you have to get a job the minute you get out of school.
Well, that's right.
We talked about that.
Exactly. So, if you come to Australia and you study something and it's something brand new, for example, we get a lot of engineers from Brazil, for example. They come, however, they might not have any work experience, but they've got the degree. They come, for example, start as a carpenter. So
or even a chef or something. Yeah,
exactly.
All that.
So
something
what do you
that's
do?
not in there the same.
That's it, brand new. They've got no work. So when they finish the qualification mark, they've got the qualification but no work experience. Now, remember this important point. In order to be sponsored by an employer for a temporary work visa, you need to have a qualification and 2-year work experience.
For the 482.
That's correct. The temporary there's temporary skill shortage visa. Now, most people are not going to have the 2-year work experience if they're coming to Australia, studying something they have no experience in before. So that is the issue here.
That's cut off pathways for students.
What do you do? Well, South Australia has provided an option for it. The tricky part is, remember this, you need to make a decision of where you are going to study in Australia, or where are you going to finish 50% of the degree or the
more.
qualification more. This is why we're here to talk about South Australia. They've opened it up. So we're going to go through what the requirements are and the waivers, because if you finish at least 50% of your qualification in South Australia, then you have a wider access to the skills list.
Yep.
Because if you do it outside and try and get in, it is extremely difficult unless you have high points or you have a family member.
Super high points.
It's like, it's 85.
85. Yeah. And that's almost impossible.
It
to
is,
get.
but that's not the one thing. If you are an interstate graduate and you come to Australia, okay, 85 points, but you also need to have someone who you're related to immediately, grandmother, grandfather, brother or sister, siblings like that, half or whatever, mum and dad, and most people don't have that. So that's really made it a very, very tricky part. And to be honest, I don't see much of that at all.
No, and it's difficult because, again, how many students already have family here?
None.
Not a lot of them.
Exactly.
So you have a student that graduates with a great degree, but if they haven't planned ahead, they could end up essentially stranded in Sydney with a great degree, and then what kind of a job can they get? Unless they can get 2 years of work experience straight out of school in their nominated occupation, you have a problem to move on to the 482. They've cut off that pathway for you.
That's it.
That's why South Australia is so interesting. And if you're looking at planning your degree, if you want to do more than 50% of it in South Australia, it will open up opportunities for you, and that's very important.
So let's go through the general requirements, Mark, of doing that.
Yep.
Yes.
We're going to cover some of them in this show. We're going to cover the rest of them in the next show, just because we work under certain time limits we have to do. So do come back for the next show. But let's do as much as we can here.
We're going to really focus on international graduates, the occupation. So let's talk about. I've got an accountant, for example, case study accountant. And, you know, that's tricky if you're from interstate. However, if you...
Interstate meaning you got your degree in another
New
state
South Wales,
other than...
Western Australia, or some other state apart from South Australia.
Yep.
So let's say, and I had a young gentleman studying, Masters of Accounting, made the arrangement to go to South Australia for the remainder half of his degree, which is wonderful, because if you complete your degree at least 50% or more in South Australia, remember you therefore then have access to a wider
You are
list.
a South Australian graduate.
You are. But number one, the most important thing I interpret is South Australia want to know that you're coming and staying. So the first major requirement is your ability to show your commitment to the state. How
do you do that?
You practically...
You wave the flag?
Yeah, it's a statutory declaration. I'm going to stay, I have this... It's very subjective. So what you need to do is provide a statement or a statutory declaration to the state of South Australia saying my intentions to stay and work in my occupation. So you know what? That's actually the first thing that they ask. Normally when...
they want people to stay in, they want people to work in there, right?
The priority for that, exactly. So the longer that's why they want graduates to come, because they know you're here, you've settled. They know you're going to, you started
contribute to the state.
They know you've got the ball rolling.
Good.
So that's why you're going to get a preference. The next important thing is, remember, apart from commitment to the state, your age.
That sounds a little Soviet.
It is.
Commitment to the state.
As I just said, that is the first thing on the list, which means it's their priority. So
commitment to the state.
Commitment to the state.
Yes.
Yes.
I will obey.
You will obey. The second part is your age.
Whoa!
I know.
Wait a minute now.
I
Wait a minute
know.
here.
Yeah. The age requirement is not going away.
I'm sensitive to age requirements.
Me too. I'm not getting any younger.
You're a lot younger than me.
No. But the next part is, apart from age, skills assessment. So if you have a skill, it must be validated. The other part is your work experience, your English, and your financial capacity. So the state of South Australia want to know, number one, you're going to stay, you're young enough, or not too young, because I understand that there is a certain age bracket that you get more points. Normally that's from 30 and above. 30 and above, from my interpretation, is that you're ready and you're at an age that you want to settle down, so you're more than likely to stay.
And we're not talking about points per the usual points test. We're talking about an internal assessment, aren't we?
That's right.
That they do. And I don't know that a lot of states have these. We hear that they give greater weight to either work experience or IELTS or English score or age. They don't really publish this information.
No, they don't. That's right. But yeah, they do. And an unavoidable part of any type of investment into a different state that I'm going to stress to you, unless you're confident that you're going to get a positive skills assessment, you're not moving until you get a positive skills assessment. Mark and I get many people wanting to throw in the towel, decide to leave, pack up, go to a different state, unaware that unless you meet these very stringent criteria, the likely chance of you getting permanent residency in that state is very minimal. Skills assessment for the state-sponsored visa is unavoidable. And that, to me, is one of the hardest points of applying for any type of skilled migration. And when it comes to South Australia, unless you've got a skills assessment that is positive in your field, which is related to the nomination that you are applying for example, if you are an accountant and you apply for an accountancy position, you need to have a positive skills assessment as an accountant.
You cannot get off the ground with the 489 or the 190 or the 189 visa without a skills assessment.
That is what is tripping up people by dropping everything, leaving, thinking I'm going to make okay as a cafe or a restaurant manager or as a bartender. It doesn't work like that. Get this done before. Skills assessment to me is a number one thing before applying for any visa.
Of course. And it's something you want to strategically plan for. So we're at the end of our time for this episode. In our very next episode, we're going to talk more about skills assessment. We're going to continue our coverage of South Australia and why it might be a state that you may want to consider coming to Australia to live in.
Thank you very much. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.